All right, so Python is a popular programming language. So we have a lot of programming languages like JavaScript, Python, Rust, Go language, C, C++, C Sharp, and every language has its own popularity and its own functionalities, right? So we mostly use JavaScript on the front end, although we could now use it on the back end as well. But JavaScript was started for the front end specifically. Just like that, Python was is also used in the web development, but it is used on the server side. Server side means on the back end, right? So in web development in general, we in website in general, we have two things that you have to know: front end and the back end. So front end is whatever you see on the client side, on your laptop or mobile screen, like all the layouts and stuff like that. It is basically the front end side, the side that which you can interact with, right? Like clicking a button or something like that. The back end is basically the things that are going behind the scenes. Like once you sign up or when you log in, what is happening, what's going on the back end, right? There's a lot of calculations going on, like the payment processing, a lot of things, right? Just like you have an e-commerce website like Amazon, you buy something, you place an order. So all the things are, so you are interacting with the front end, but actually all the processes are going on behind the scenes. So Python is specifically used on the server side, right? On the backend side of the code. It is also used in software development in general. It is used in mathematics. It is used in machine learning, artificial intelligence, right? It was created in 1991, so it's quite a bit old language, right? So again, Python can be used on a server to create web applications. It can be used to connect to database systems because it can also read and modify files. Right? It can read and modify the files, and it can be used to handle the big data to to perform complex mathematics. All right. Now it can work on different platforms, right? Like if someone say why should we use Python, so there are some pros like why are we using it. So the first one is that it works on different platforms like Windows, Mac, Linux. There is one other called Raspberry Pi, but for now you can just think of like Windows, Mac, and Linux, right? I hope you know about all of it, right? Do you know about Linux?
Yes.
All right, so Python works on all platforms, and it has a simple syntax that is quite similar or pretty similar to the English language. So I would say like Python is the most easiest language of all the programming languages. We haven't gone into JavaScript yet, but when you go to JavaScript and you compare both the Python syntax and the JavaScript syntax, you will find Python as much easier, right? It is quite similar to the English language, so it's pretty much easier to understand. It has a syntax that allows developers to write programs with fewer lines of code than some other programming languages, and that's what I just said, right?
Yes.
All right, now what version of Python are we using? The recent version of Python is like Python 3. Before these, we were using like Python 2, although that's not being updated other than the security. It's still quite popular, but right now we are using Python 3. That's the latest version of it, right? All right. Now one last thing, and after that we will directly jump into the coding, right? So like when we use Python syntax compared to the other languages, what does it looks like? So Python was designed for readability, and it has some similarities to the English language with influence from mathematics. So again, it's easy, and it also takes influence from mathematics, right? So we can use it in mathematics, while most of the programming languages they don't, right? Python is specifically used for that. It uses new lines to complete a command as opposed to other programming languages, which often use semicolons or parentheses. So when we were doing CSS, although CSS is not a programming language, but when we were doing CSS, you remember that we would have a semicolon at the end of each line. Do you still remember that? Eddie, I'm asking you.
Yes.
All right, great. So in many programming languages, you end a line with a semicolon at the end. That's how you go to the new line. A Python does not use semicolon, right? You just go to the new line and the previous line gets updated or completed. That's it. It relies on indentation. Now, we're going to see in a while what is indentation. It's the kind of white spaces to define scope, such as the scope of the loops, functions, and classes. Other programming languages, they often use the curly brackets. As you also saw in the case of CSS, again, when we were using a selector, then we would use a curly bracket, and then we would write some properties within those brackets. JavaScript also does the same. It also uses brackets, right? But Python, it uses indentation, like the white spaces. Now I'm going to show you how does it look like. Let me share my screen to you. Can you see my screen? Can you see the replit?
Yes.
Okay, for now, I'm using Replit because we don't have much time today. So we need to code as much as possible. Otherwise, in the next one, I will also show you like how to run the Python code in VS Code, as I told you before as well. So we're going to run in the Python in the VS Code as well. But for now, for today, we are going to use it. We're going to use Replit, right? For the sake of ease. Okay, let's write the very first line of the Python. If you want to print, you have a statement or a function called print. So we are going to write print, then parentheses, and just like that, we have double quotes, and then you write something. Let's say hello world. Now, if I run the code, you will see hello world prints here, right? Now, just like that, if you want to print another line of code, you can use as many print statements as you would like, right? And if you run it, it will basically print it here. Like whatever is inside the double quotes, it will get printed on the console. That's what the print statement is used for. So let's do it more. Okay, let me run the code again. And yeah, you can see it here. We have two statements, right? We have two print statements. The first one says hello world, and the second one says this is our first Python lesson. So that's the very first thing that you should know about Python, right? The print statement or the print function, whatever you write inside it, and then when you run it, it will show you on the console, right? and you would have to write it in the double quotes in order to see it here. Because if you don't do it, let me show that to you. If you remove the double quotes, you will get an error, and you can see it here. It says invalid syntax. Perhaps you forgot a comma. It's not a comma, but it's double quotes. So you need double quotes. And by the way, you can run it in VS Code as well. That's pretty easy. So what you have to do is, you can do that later. For now, just look at my screen and learn how I'm doing it. You'll have to go to CMD, the command prompt, and you will have to type Python. Now, I have the Python installed. That's why it's giving me the version of the Python I'm using. It says 3.11.9. In your case, it might not be installed. So it would, when you write Python and press enter, it will take you to the Microsoft Store. Right? It would take you like here. And you will have to install it from here. Now, once you install it, by the way, in Macs, it comes pre-installed, right? But in Windows, it does not usually, you do not usually get it by default. You have to install it like that. And then let's go to the VS Code. I already have it, but let's do it from the beginning. Let me create a new file, just like we have index.html, style.css. We write the Python file by ending it with the .py, .py extension, right? So let's call it hello.py. That's the extension of the Python file. Let's use the print statement again. Hello world. And I will go to the terminal command prompt that comes with the VS Code itself. I'll need to run the hello.py file. So I will write Python hello.py, and it will print hello world. All right, so you can run it like that. First of all, you need to install Python on your computer from the Microsoft Store. And then when you run it, so it is like you'll have to write Python followed by the name of the file. So the name of the file is hello.py. That's why I wrote hello.py. If it was something else, let's say it was ABC. So I would write abc.py. Let me show that to you again as well. Let's call it abc.py. Hello again. Now, if I want to run this ABC file, what I would need to do is Python abc.py.
Hello, Mohammed.
Hello.
Sorry to cut you short. So what kind
No
of
problem.
Python are they using in class? Is it the same one you say is down? You should download.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same across all platforms. That's basically the main. That's basically the same thing, right?
Okay.
But there are different versions, so you need to install the version that is the latest, like above 3. The previous versions are 2. Like it goes like 2.1.3, something like that.
Let's install 10.
Did you get my point?
Rep. He said they use Replit.
Yeah. I'm going to show him both of them, right?
Okay,
No
no
worries.
problem.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just showing him this different thing as well. So like we
Okay,
can code
nice.
it here as well. Yeah,
All right.
sure.
Thank you. Perfect.
You're welcome. Replit is pretty easier because you can just write the Python. You can just create a Python file by giving it a name and then give it an extension of Py, and then you can run it directly. So you don't need to install anything for Replit, right? Replit is pre. It has pre-installed everything for you. All right, let's move ahead. Is everything clear so far?
Yes.
All right, great. Let's talk about the syntax a little more. Now, a little while ago, I told you something about indentation, right? So indentation refers to the spaces at the beginning of a code line. So like if I give it some space here, this is called indentation, right? These white spaces at the beginning of a code line, this is called as indentation. Now, it's extremely important in Python, right? In other languages, it is often used for readability only. So if I show you that to you again, if you go to CSS, we have these spaces, right? But this is only for readability. It will not give you an error if you move it back. If you remove the white space, it will not give you an error because it is used only for readability in other languages. But in Python, it's extremely important. It is used to define a block of code, right? A block of code means, again, if I compare it with the CSS, I'm comparing with CSS again and again because that's what you have done. And it will be easier for you to understand. That's why I'm using the examples again and again. So let's say this is our selector, and then we use the curly brackets. And inside these brackets, we have some code, right? Some properties. So this is our block of code. This is what I mean by block of code. All right. Now in Python, it's specified not with the curly brackets, but with the white spaces. Let me give you an example. Let's use a conditional statement. There is something called conditional statement. Like you have a condition, and based on that condition, you run something. You run the code. Let's say if I have a condition that says if 5 is greater than 2, or if 5 is greater than 4, then only should it print something. Otherwise, it shouldn't. And as we know that 5 is greater than 3 or 4, it should run the code. Let's see how does that work. If I run the code, it says 5 is greater than 3, right? But what if I don't use the indentation or the white space in the beginning? Let's remove it first and then run it. Yeah, here you see the indentation error. It says expected an indented block after if statement on line 1. It says exactly the same thing, that this is the piece of code that is related to this, if statement. So it does not create a block here because it is on the same line as it is, right? On the left hand side, it's exactly the same. It does not have indentation. And when it does not have the indentation or this white space, it means that it is not being considered the block of this if statement. That's why it gives you an indentation error. And the Replit console mentions it as well. It says indentation error, expected an indented block after if statement on line 1. It just means you should have at least one space over here. And the more common one is 4 spaces. So you should give it like 4 spaces. That's the more common one. You can have as many as you would like, but 4 is the very usual and standard thing. But at least it should be one. There should be at least one white space. All right. Now let's tweak it a little bit. If I say 2 is greater than 3, which is false, right? If 2 is greater than 3, and that is not the case, right? 2 is less than 3. Let's see how does the code work. 2 is greater than 3. If I run the code now, it does not print anything, right? Here it's empty. Let me delete it and run it again. You won't see anything. Yeah, it's empty, right? Because this statement is false. It's giving us false. So if it's false, it means it will not run. But if the condition is true, then it will run. Like, let's say 10 is greater than 3. Now the condition is right or true. Now it will run this code. It will run this text. Yeah. 10 is greater than 3. Tell me, do you understand so far?
Yes.
Do you now know about the indentation? The white space in the beginning?
Yes.
All right, great. And as I said again, the number of spaces is up to you. The most common is 4 spaces in the beginning of a block of code. But it has to be at least 1, right? That's what I said. Now let's try another thing. Print hello again. Now you see there is no indentation, right? There is no space in the beginning, but this code is still running because the block of if statement is up till here. Now when you remove the white space in the next line, it means that is not considered as its block. So this print statement is not considered as a block of this code, right? It is considered as a separate code. But if I move it at the same level as the other one, then it will be considered as in the block of this if statement. So now if statement has 2 print statements, right? The if block has 2 print statements. But if I remove the indentation, then the if block will only have this one print statement, and this print statement will not be considered in this block, right? Because it does not have that indentation. If you want to move it to this block, you will have to give it the same indentation. And the moment the indentation ends on some line, it means that block has been ended. That block has been scoped. All right, now let's move towards the variables. Don't worry, right? We are going to do it again and again so that you have, once you have some practice over it, it will become easier. It might seem a little bit difficult at the beginning because you're just starting it, but when you do it a few times, it will become much easier. It's all based upon practice. So the more you practice, it would be much more easier for you. Now let's start the Python variables, which are extremely important. So now what is a variable? A variable is something, it is a container that is used for storing the data values. So like if let's say you have a value of 10 and you want to save it to a variable, right? Let's say you want to save it into x. X is equals to 5. So x becomes a variable because it stores the 5 value. So variables are the containers for storing data. That's a simple definition of the variable. Now, Python has no command for declaring a variable. A variable is created the moment you first assign a value to it. So just like x equals to 5 or y equals to John. Now x contains a value called 5. That's what we have assigned to it. Y contains a value called John. Now we're going to learn a bit later the difference in the data types, because the 5 is a number and this John is called a string. It's a text-based value and it's called a string in programming language. It's written inside the double quotes, right? So x and y are variables because they're holding some values. X is holding 5 and y holds John. By the way, this is called comments, right? If you want to write a comment in Python, you just have to write this hashtag in front of a line. So if you want to make this x equals to 5 a comment, you just have to write the hashtag in front of it and it will become a comment. Comment means that this line will not run. All right. Let me comment this one so you can understand better. Now this hello again will not run. Only the 10 is greater than 3 will run. Yeah, do you see now? Because it is commented, right? When something is commented, it means that it will be ignored when you run it. It is just for the documentation purpose or for the sake of readability purpose, right? And comments are used in every programming language. It is used in HTML and CSS as well. And we have done that, if you remember. If not, then I can show it back to you. So I can make this line as a comment. But in CSS, you write comments like this, right? In HTML, is different. You write it like that. I'm doing it from the keyboard by pressing Control and /, but it looks like this. But in Python, you use a hashtag. That's how you write the comments. It is used for readability. Okay, now here's the interesting thing. Let's now print the values of x and y instead of writing something in it like that. So now let's print x. That's great. 5, you can see it here. Because x has a value of 5. So you can see 5 here. Let me remove this one so that it becomes a little bit easier. I'll comment it because we only want to see these prints. So 5. Let's also now print the value of y. And if I run it, you can see 5 and you can see John. John is 5 years old. This is called string concatenation. We're going to look at it a bit later because that'll be a bit complex for you. But this is how we can basically combine the values and then print something out of it, right? So I combined both of it, like the values of x and y, and I printed John is dash years old, which is x, because we have a number value in x. That's why it says John is 5 years old. Okay, so far so good. Now in Python, variables do not need to be declared with any particular type and can even change type after they have been set. Now, what does that mean? It is important to know that in other programming languages, you need a type when you declare variable. So like in JavaScript, when you write a variable, you do not write it like that. You have a specific data type for that. So we write const x equals to 5 or let x equals to 5. In Python, it's not the case. That's why I told you that the syntax of Python is very simple. You do not write let or const when you declare a variable. You just write a value and then you assign it to a certain variable, just like x equals to 5. So x by default becomes a variable. Whereas in JavaScript, you would have to write const or let in front of it. Then only would x become a variable. But in Python, that's not the case. You do not need to write a particular type. This is called typing, right? This is called a type. So we have different data types. You have a number data type, you have a string, you have complex, and you have lots of that, right? And because it's not specified, it can also change the values later on. So if I write x equals to some string, let's say hello, and let me remove this one and print x. It says hello. So we have two variables, right? For the same x, 5 and hello. Which one will get run? Obviously, the one that comes later on. Runs line by line. This line runs first, then this line runs first, then this line, and at the end, we have this line. So the code runs line by line, and then it interprets it and turns into an output, something which is readable to humans, right? So,
Mm,
yeah, go ahead. Do you have any question?
yeah, how about the pen up and pen down thing?
Oh, you for that you
Conjoining.
first. I don't know. For that thing, you first need to understand the fundamentals of Python. That thing is basically a library that is built on top of the Python. If you don't understand at least the fundamentals, you'll not be able to understand that thing as well, because that contains variables, functions, classes. So if you don't remember what a function is, how would you be able to use that library? That's what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, you need to at least spend a bit of time on the fundamentals. Then you will understand that as well. So if I just show you as an example, if I open the farm scene, do you see it here? Def draw rectangle. This is a function, right? This is called module. We use the functions, we write some statements, and then we run it when we need it, like that and like that. So you first need to at least understand what that is, and then go into the complex things. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for you. Hope that makes sense, right? Should we go ahead?
Yes.
Yeah. Now we were talking about the variables and the data types that in Python you don't need to declare a variable with any particular type, and you can even change it after it has been set. And we saw that here. We declared a variable, and then we change the type. The type means the number, the string. So this 5 is a number, hello is a string. That these two are completely different types. String is some text, right? That you write it within the double quotes. And then you have this number. You also have floating numbers, like the decimal numbers, so like 5.2. That's called a float, a floating point number. So these are different data types. So we saw that the type can be changed as well, because when we ran it, we saw hello instead of 5. But still, if you want to specify the data type of a variable, this can be done with casting. There is a concept called casting. And with casting, you can specify the data type of a variable. Let's see how does that go. So let's say a equals to float 3. This is 3.0, because float will make it a decimal number, right? Float is a data type for decimal numbers, like 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, sort of that, right? Now, if I put integer over here, so there's another one called int, which stands for integer. If I run it now, you will see a 3 like that, because it is an integer in mathematics. An integer is something that has like no decimal point. It's a positive or negative number, but it does not have a decimal. And you can also find the type of a variable by using a type function. So let's say if I want to find the type of this x variable, I will do type of x. It says str, which stands for a string, right? Str stands for string, which means something, some text that has been written inside the double quotes. Let's also find the type of y. What would be the type of y, by the way? I'm asking you. Before running it, I'm asking you, what would be the type of y? What would be the output of this line? You have to answer that.
John.
Sorry, what?
John.
No, we are basically checking the type of the variable of y. This is the y variable. It has the value of John in it. And we are printing the type of y. I'm saying, what is the type of y? What is the data type of y? Like, what data are we holding in y variable? I mean, is it a string? Is it a number? Is it a float or what? I just told all of that to you, right? Multiple times. Is it a string? Is it a number? Or is it a float? Think about it.
String.
No, it's not 3. I'm saying, I'm not asking about the value. I'm asking about the type.
String.
It's a string, right? It's the
Yeah.
type is this. So we have the variable here, x. Its value on the right hand side is hello. We have the variable called y, and its value is John. The type of y is string because that's a string, and that's what I said. Whenever you write something within the double quotes, that becomes a string, even if that's a number. So let's say z equals to 5. Now this 5 is not a number. It becomes a string because you wrote it within the double quotes. That becomes a string. And I can show that to you as well. And you can see it here. It's a string. But there are 3 strings because the first one is the x, the type of the x, the type of the y, and the type of the z. All of these are strings because these are within the double quotes. Now, if I have the same z value of 5, but without the quotes, let's see how does it work. It becomes int. It becomes integer because that is integer, by the way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, great. Now let's talk about the names of the variables a little bit. So far, we have used the easiest ones like x, y, z, a, b, c, but that's now how it should be. That's just for to show you that you can use this. But that's the very easier form of it. Because in real world applications, we write very descriptive names, right? Like if we have a name, then the variable should be called name. Let's say we have a program that has my name and your name. So you will not call a equals to this and b equals to this. You will write my name equals to John, let's say. Your name equals to Jane. Now my name and your name are the variables. It holds John and Jane. That's how it should be named properly. So you should know the rules of how to name a variable. So it can have a short name like X and Y, A and B, C, whatever. But the more descriptive names, like we saw my name, your name, car name, total volume, or sort of stuff like that. And let's understand the rules for the variable. The first rule is that a variable name must start with the letter or the underscore character. It cannot start with a number. So you cannot start a variable name by a number. 8, 2, car equals to, let's say, a Honda. That's a wrong name, right? You can see here the syntax error. 2 car is not a proper name. The rule says that it should not start with a number. It should start with a letter or the underscore character. So this is fine now. Underscore is fine, but number is not. Then it says a variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores. Like you can use A to Z, 0 to 9. You can use the numbers in between, but you cannot start with the numbers. The last but not the least is that variable names are case sensitive. So let me give you an example. Age equals to 24 is not equal to age equals to 24. These same variables, these are different. Why? Because because it's case sensitive. The second one starts with capital A, the first one starts with a lowercase a. So these are considered as different. Does that make sense? It's case sensitive. Age and age are different. Although the values are equal, but these are different variables. These are two. This will be considered as two, not one.
Well, what's the difference?
The difference is that these are two separate variables. Like it will not be, although it's both of them are age, the values are same, so it will be equal, but this will be considered as two different ages, right? Not a single age.
Yeah, but why?
Because it is,
They both say
that's
the
the
same
rule.
thing.
That's the rule in Python, that they are case sensitive. The variables are case sensitive. So age is not equal to this age, because in this one we have the capital A, and this one we have the lowercase a. So it should be treated differently. Let's say I do 26. So I now have two different ages, not a single age. Although it looks same, but I have two different ages. One with this variable and one with this variable. This is lowercase variable, all in lowercase, and in this one we have the first letter as capital. And also remember, we only use the underscore, right? If you use dash, that will not be a proper name. Dash will not be considered proper. You can only use underscore, right? You cannot start the variable name with a number. And you cannot have a space in between them. So if you do something like your name, that is also not right. You should not have a space within the name, right? If you have like a multiple named variable, like your name, my name, we have two words, right? If you have a multi-word variable name, it should be separated with an underscore, not a space. I think that's all for today. We did the pretty much basics.